Sunday night was a huge game for the Raiders. Prime time, an opportunity to move to 3-0, and the team happened to be in the nation's capital on the day the NFL in masses protested comments made by President Trump. Hello and welcome to Vegas Nation. I'm Bryan Salmond. Now the Raiders, well, they certainly joined the league-wide protest, either sitting or kneeling and locking arms. Unfortunately, the team's show of unity before the game did not translate to crisp execution during the game. Derek Carr throws his first 2 interceptions of the season, the first on their opening drive. Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper dropped passes in the defense. Well, they did not play well as well. The Raiders lose 27-10. So for more on the big game, let's go ahead and head to D.C. with Michael Gehlken and Ed Graney.
Hey everyone, it's Ed Graney, Michael Gehlken of the Review Journal here in Landover, Maryland. Michael, the Raiders arrived to this place flying high, 2-0. Everyone was talking playoffs. What a team. Kaboom. What a thud. 27-10 loss to the Redskins. What happened?
27-10, and it wasn't that close. You saw a Raiders offense that went 0 for 11 on third down, which is very hard to do, especially when you actually have a good offense, which the Raiders still have. Defensively, Chris Thompson, running back, who they knew could be a problem for their linebackers. Boy, was he ever. Vernon Davis was the tight end with Jordan Reed out, inactive, and still took over the first half. I mean, all in all, offense, defense, really everything but special teams was a total disaster. Now, the Raiders did have high expectations going into this game. They still walk out of this with high expectations. It was just a Week 3 loss. It was just one defeat. But, boy, what a way to lose.
Yeah, they were bad on all fronts. The night began with the protests as we expected. The Redskins stood with arms interlinked. The Raiders, several sat, some kneeled. Derek Carr stood with his eyes closed. Giorgio Tavecchio, the kicker, actually was the only one who was standing with his hand over his heart. Afterwards, Donald Penn spoke about the protests. Where does this go from here? I mean, was this kind of one-day solidarity that the NFL was going to show in terms of their disagreement with President Trump's remarks, or do you think it keeps going like this?
Well, to a certain degree, I think it'll keep going because to a certain degree, we've seen this before this weekend in the NFL, but no, in terms of such a collective effort from the Raiders sideline to send a message that they felt they wanted to send, this isn't something that's going to continue to this degree, or at least that's what left guard Kelechi Osemele said after the game. So it seems like this was a one-week type of deal to have this type of response from the Raiders, where you saw guys sit on the bench, arms interlocked. Usually you see Marshawn sit on the cooler, but he had a bunch of guys there right next to him. And really, if not guys sitting, they were all standing together. It was very clear that they wanted to send a message of unity pregame during the anthem.
So there you have it. Redskins 27, Raiders 10. Look for our all coverage in the Review Journal. Vegas Nation with Michael. He's there throughout the week. And next week, Raiders at Denver, both 2-1. First AFC West game for the Raiders this year. It's more important maybe now at 2-1?
I would say so. They want to get back on track, and they know how important these divisional games are. So go back on the road to Denver, a big one for the Raiders.
We'll have all the coverage leading up to then and then be in Denver next week. For Ed and Michael, live in Landover, Maryland, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, appreciate it, guys. And, of course, welcome to the studio. Gilbert Manzano, the NFL writer, one of the NFL writers for the Review Journal here. Thanks for coming in, obviously.
No problem. So no Raider Super Bowl just yet?
Yeah, I guess they shouldn't book their tickets. Raider Nation, don't book your tickets just yet to the Super Bowl. Probably why? Because Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree, they forgot how to catch the ball. What's the deal with them dropping passes tonight?
Yeah, a lot of drop passes, and when they completed, no yards. It was a combined 13 receiving yards for that dynamic duo of Crabtree and Cooper. I think Cooper had 6, and Crabtree had a whopping 7 yards.
7 yards, huh?
So you look at the box score, it's not pretty for the Raider receivers who were
13 yards?
That's pretty low for one of the, I guess they consider the best tandem at wide receiver.
Okay, so while the passing game was really, really bad, the rushing game wasn't very good as well. Marshawn Lynch, there's no beast mode in D.C., I guess?
Not really, but I guess but for Marshawn Lynch, he went over 10 yards for his. He had 18 rushing yards, so not bad. No, it was terrible as a team combined for this committee that was doing so well. 32 rushing yards, for Jalen Richard and all those guys. All
right, so Josh Norman, obviously he did his thing. It's not just Odell Beckham Jr. that he shuts down. He obviously shuts down Crabtree and Amari Cooper as well. how about the defensive side of the ball for the Raiders? Because they've been playing pretty well leading up to this game, but I think they thought it was a preseason because they didn't play like
yeah,
they had
this is the second that we were kind of expecting entering the year. A not so good Raider secondary. Emerson got beat on that jump ball with Dodson. It was just embarrassing. Even Carl Joseph, who had a great 2 games, was not looking pretty good. And Kirk Cousins, he was just using whatever he wanted, whatever weapons. It could be Vernon Davis or Jamison Crowder or Dodson, and all these guys are just coming out of nowhere. Even I don't think Terrell Pryor had a good game, and it didn't matter. There were just too many weapons. And Chris Thompson, we know how he went off on third and 19.
That was very bad. I mean, 3rd and 19. A lot of guys were missing tackles. And Thompson, whether he was running the ball or receiving the ball, I mean, it seemed like he had their number for the
Yeah, I guess finally the Raiders linebackers and experience finally got to them. They got kind of exposed a little bit, and they went after that middle because those guys are not they're not used to the bright lights and Cousins for guys who could just pick them apart, and kept going to dump offs for Thompson, and he just went off on him. For fantasy people, they love that.
So the Raiders not good in the bright lights. Gilbert Manzano, very good under the bright lights. Thanks, my man.
I try.
So the Silver and Black lose, fall to 2-1 on the season. Up next, the Broncos in Denver versus a Broncos team who also suffered their first loss tonight. So for Ed Graney, for Michael Gehlken, and Gilbert Manzano, I'm Bryan Salmond for Vegas Nation. And see you next time.